Hey guys, it's Darwin. So today I want to talk about 5 underrated yet valuable pieces of gear that I won't go hiking without. Alright, so lately I did a video called Gear to Leave at Home During a Thru-Hike, where I explained 5 pieces of gear that I would never bring on a thru-hike. Today I figured I would do a video talking about 5 pieces of gear that I always make sure that I have in my pack setup. Gear I don't typically go into a lot of detail about, but are super valuable to me and I wouldn't hit the trail without. Number 1. Gaiters. I hiked for years without ever even thinking about using gaiters. Typically, I thought a gaiter was only good for if you were doing snowshoeing and needed a big time snow gaiter. So in 2015 on the Appalachian Trail, we seen a ton of people with a gaiter called a dirty girl. Now again, we weren't really gaiter people and had never hiked with them before. After hearing tons of people talk about how much they loved them, keeping rocks out of their shoes and sand out of their shoes, we finally picked up a pair, and let me tell you, I will never go hiking again without them. So because I do wear a low top shoe and don't wear a mid boot, obviously rocks and sand and dirt and twigs get in my shoe. So the amazing thing about gaiters is they kind of put this little blockade around your ankle and make sure nothing gets in your shoe. I never really realized that until I started using them and was amazed when I got to camp at night I didn't have to dump a bunch of crap out of my shoe. I didn't have to stop on the trail every once in a while to dig a little rock out of my shoe, especially here in the desert. So I do a lot of desert hiking and it probably wouldn't be as possible without a gaiter. Now again, the gaiter that I use is a Dirty Girl gaiter, a really awesome company that was started by a hiker slash trail runner that started making these for ultra marathoners. There are a lot of different gaiter companies on the market, but Dirty Girl is definitely my favorite. Super small, super compact, crazy light, packs down really tiny, and the great thing is it has this little loop here and a piece of Velcro so it attaches to your shoe and makes sure it doesn't pop up. So if you wear a low top hiking boot or a trail runner like I do, I highly suggest trying out some gaiters. Again, you don't have to get those big funky snow gaiters that come all the way up to your knee, because now we have small trail runner gaiters that are perfect for doing a thru hike to keep stuff out of your shoe. Number 2, liner socks. So for years I only hiked in a regular hiking sock. Obviously, like everyone else, every once in a while, especially putting big miles on, I would get blisters, usually on the back of my heel, on the front of my toe. And I dealt with them just like everybody else. A fellow hiking buddy out on the AT suggested that I try liner socks. Now my first thought was, why would I wear 2 pairs of socks when one sock works just fine? And I'm willing to deal with blisters because they're just gonna happen. Now, hiking 400 miles with her, I realized she had amazing feet and never got a blister where the rest of us were constantly having to mend and pop our blisters. So we got into a town and into an outfitter and I decided to give them a try. So I picked up a pair of these CoolMax Wigwam hiking socks and I will never go back. So since I started wearing a liner sock, number 1, I don't get blisters anymore. If I do, it's a tiny little blister, but for the most part, I don't get those big gnarly blisters that I used to get when starting to do a long distance hike. And the other thing is I have very sweaty feet, which is pretty nasty. And the great thing about these is when I'm wearing them, my feet don't get sweaty at all. So they keep my feet cool and keep them dry, which is probably another reason why I'm not getting blisters, because my feet aren't as saturated with sweat, aren't building up and getting those hot points and rubbing up against my shoe. So if you've been dealing with blister problems for a while on the trail, I highly suggest picking up a pair of liner socks. Again, I'll never go back and never go hiking without these guys. So speaking of blisters, that brings us to number 3, which is Leuko tape. This stuff is amazing, period. Now, if you don't know what Leuko tape is, it's very similar to a product called moleskin. Now, whenever we hit the trail in 2015, we carried what most thru hikers carry, which is moleskin, also called second skin, but essentially what it is it's made to be able to put on top of a blister once you've healed it and mended it and popped it and got all that stuff out, and then it acts like second skin to protect that and prevent rubbage. The problem with moleskin is once it gets wet, and if you're doing a trail like the Appalachian Trail and you're constantly getting wet, it peels right off. So a lot of people would have to put a piece of moleskin and then put a piece of duct tape, which also came off. And then we discovered Leuko tape. The amazing thing about Leuko tape is it's crazy thin, so it's not real thick like moleskin, and it stays on forever. Now back when we started the Appalachian Trail, when we got to Neal's Gap, I had a huge round blister on my heel. So obviously I did what everyone does. I popped it, I treated it, and a friend of mine gave me a piece of Leuko tape. I put it on top of the blister, and it was on my heel for 2 weeks. Now the only reason it came off is because I took it off. So it lasted 2 weeks hiking in the rain, taking showers, my feet being sweaty, and hiking every day for 2 weeks. This stuff is amazing. It essentially bonds to your skin and it doesn't go anywhere. So instead of moleskin or band-aids, I just carry a little bitty roll of Leuko tape and use it for everything because man, does it stick to your skin. So if you're gonna be doing a thru hike like the Appalachian Trail, I highly suggest this over any other product just because you're gonna constantly be wet and this stuff will stay in place. The number 4 piece of gear that I wouldn't go hiking without or do most traveling or even like go to work or the store is my buff. The buff. If you haven't got a buff yet, you're not hiking with a buff or a similar product, man, you're missing out. The buff is one of the greatest pieces of gear ever created, and it's something I always make sure I have with me. Sometimes I even carry 2. So the buff was made as a garment to be able to put around your neck as a neck gaiter or to be able to put around your ears if it's cold outside, but the buff has multiple uses, which is why I would never leave this guy at home. So not only do I use it as a bandana, I use it to cover my ears when they're cold, I can use it as a face mask if it's super dusty outside or windy, I can use it as a neck gaiter, I use it to wipe off sweat, I use it to pick up my pot from the stove, I use it as a washcloth, I use it as a Kleenex. I use this thing for everything. This one piece of gear probably replaces like 10 pieces of gear that I could have in my pack. It's super light, it's super versatile. I would say the buff is one of the greatest pieces of gear that I wouldn't go hiking without. It looks so simple and something that you could think that you would never really need, but trust me, if you haven't got a buff or a similar product, get one and find out for yourself how useful this piece of gear really is. So number 5 is my rain jacket. I absolutely love my rain jacket. I bought that thing back in 2014 and it has been with me on every trip since. Not only through hikes, section hikes, bike packing trips, it is always in my pack regardless if I think that I'm going to need it or not. And not just because it's a great rain jacket just in case I get caught in a rainstorm, but also because I use it for everything. If it's a little chilly outside, I'll throw it on. If I'm doing a thru hike and I'm doing laundry, I'll put just that on so I can still roam around town while I'm trying to clean all my clothes. I've used it as a pillow. Sometimes I even throw it down on the ground just to keep my ass clean when I'm sitting on the ground to have a snack or take a break. I use my rain jacket for everything, and it is such a valuable piece of gear. If you look at pictures from 2015 on the AT, 2016, my thru ride of the Arizona Trail, my section hike of the CDT, anytime I go to a national park, you will see that jacket on me about 90% of the time. Even here in the city, I use it to commute in if it's a little cold or a little rainy outside. I always have that thing stuffed in some place in whatever type of bag I'm carrying, whether it's a thru hike, whether I'm commuting on my bike, whether I'm going for a day hike or going to a national park. It is one of the most valuable pieces of gear that I own. Alright guys, so what are some pieces of gear that you won't go hiking without? Leave me some comments in the comment section below and let me know your favorite pieces of gear. If you haven't got a chance yet, go over and check me out on Instagram. I'm posting a lot of new photos lately of some of the things that Snuggles and I have going on throughout the week, plus some pictures of some past hikes, so go check those out. If you found any value in this video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and as always guys, thanks for watching.